Don't leave me hanging. It's go time.
Hey everybody, this is Josh, and here we have Game 3 in a best-of-5 series between WhiteRa, the Ukrainian Protoss player. He is the red one up here on the top right of Xel'Naga Caverns, and his opponent today is the Swedish Terran player SjoW. He is the blue one down here on the bottom left, and he is sponsored by Dignitas Gaming. WhiteRa, of course, had his name changed to Duckload Raw when retail came out. Because he is sponsored by Duckload.com, and he told me at MLGDC that he is really happy with that sponsorship. They sent him to America to play at MLGDC and then also at BlizzCon, where he was invited to represent Europe. So WhiteRa loving Duckload.com. He right now needs to win this game because SjoW is currently up 2-0. WhiteRa's in his home country. A ton of his fans are in the live audience. He does not want to disappoint them. Does not want to disappoint his wife. He wants to win $7,500, so he needs to win 3 games in a row to be able to do that. SjoW, on the other hand, already up 2-0 in this series, needs just one more win. If he can do it here on Xel'Naga Caverns, he will be the first ever Intel Extreme Masters European Champion for StarCraft 2, and that is a heck of a title to proclaim that you are. So he wants to do that. Also $7,500. I'm sure he would be happy with that as well. So we'll see if WhiteRa's got anything up his sleeve to defend against the very powerful play from SjoW. It seems to involve a lot of medevacs. WhiteRa's been trying to counter-harass with warp prisms in games 1 and 2. This map not as good for those warp prism tactics. This one actually is a little bit better for hidden pylons, say over here, and you can have an observer grant vision up this cliff, or back here behind this destructible, sorry, not destructible debris, but vision blockers, this brush right here. And you know, there's a lot of terrain here that favors pylon warp-ins. I like this placement right here. You can warp in down here at the bottom once he gets a couple of more gateways up. Every game so far, WhiteRa has been getting a robotics facility right after that first gateway for an early immortal. We'll see if he does it again, that makes it 3 in a row, or if he tries to do something a little more aggressive, like a 4-gate, since that robotics facility really hasn't been working out for him too well so far. And Xel'Naga Caverns, obviously there is only one set of spawns that can happen, a top right and a bottom left, unlike Metalopolis and Delta Quadrant, those first 2 maps where they got sort of far away positions both times. The first one was close flying positions, and the next one was cross map, so there's a lot of distance to be covered. Xel'Naga Caverns is a decently sized map, but the run distance really is not so great that a 4-gate wouldn't be very effective. Anyways, WhiteRa can just use this probe to build a pylon wherever he wants and be able to warp in units right next to SjoW's base. So we'll see if he switches it up or not. Warp gate tech is being researched right now, but not chrono boosted. A robotics facility is coming up, so WhiteRa sticking with what he likes to do. 3 games in a row, we see that robotics facility coming out. Probably going to see an immortal first once again. They do so well against Hellions and infantry like Marauders. Marines, actually, in large numbers, are pretty much the only thing SjoW can do to get those immortals down quickly. He is expanding quite fast here, getting this command center up pretty quickly before even a second racks. This time he's only going 1 racks, 1 factory, whereas every other time he's gone at least 2 racks before getting that factory, and then a starport, and then expanding. WhiteRa doesn't seem to have any plans to expand right now. He's probably going to get up to 3 gates and a single robo facility before he does anything like that. Robotics Bay probably next on the docket for WhiteRa, as he did that the first 2 games in a row. Hellion showing up here. Looks like he did manage to snag a probe kill from that Xel'Naga tower, but WhiteRa is not going to let him into his base. He's got a sentry waiting with enough juice for a force field. He's got this stalker here, which does quite well against Hellions, and a zealot, just in case things go horribly wrong and that Hellion does manage to get into his base. 3rd gateway is about halfway done. Back at SjoW's base, he is getting a 2nd barracks now. No starport being built just yet. He's still working off of only 1 gas. Not sure when he's going to choose to get that next one up. He's going to have 2 command centers before he has 2 refineries, which is pretty interesting. And we'll see if this orbital command starts making right away or not. He doesn't have the minerals for it right now. But a 3rd barracks coming up too here. Looks like we're going to see a heavy emphasis on infantry once again. No medevacs on the way just yet. He needs to get his starport up to support that infantry here soon. Observer flying over from WhiteRa. Looks like he did go Observer first this time, but an Immortal is now out, and now that Robotics Bay is showing up once again. He's starting to expand here at his natural just to be able to keep up. Let's look at income just for the heck of it and see that WhiteRa is ahead by 2 Harvesters. That, of course, is a result of chrono boosting probes from the beginning of the game. Both players just constantly building workers. Orbital Command now floating over to the natural. Yes, he did drop a mule before flying over. No, he dropped a scan right there and killed that observer, not a mule. But either way, that energy is expended, so he's not going to be able to do anything once he lands. Check this out, building a supply depot behind this visibility blocker that I mentioned earlier in this cast. So WhiteRa is not going to be able to use that as a point of entry very easily. Instead, he is on the move here with a couple of sentries and a single Immortal. He must have gotten a little peek at that army and decided he did not want to tangle with that right now, so he's going to back off and head back to his natural. No starport still for SjoW. I wonder when he's ever going to get that thing built. His play has been heavily reliant on medevac drops so far in this series. We'll be very surprised if he doesn't get a starport up at all. Oh, there it is. Okay. I knew he would make one at some point. Reactor coming up on this factory, but all of his barracks are already outfitted with attachments, so I'm wondering if this starport is eventually going to land on this reactor or if he's just going to continue cranking out Hellions. He seems to have an affinity for Marine, Marauder, and Hellion unit compositions. Now he's starting to move toward that mineral line of the expansion of WhiteRa. WhiteRa also placing a pylon back here by his visibility blocker just to make sure Hellions don't sneak in from that angle. So the Hellions unable to actually do anything. Good force fields here blocking them from the mineral line. Immortal here to try and take some shots. And now the first Colossus is out as well. A second one is being made right now and chrono boosted. 3 gates still functioning here. WhiteRa might even be able to get a 4th gateway up here soon, working off of 2 bases now. Let's look at the income once again. WhiteRa ahead by only 2 workers, but SjoW does have the mineral advantage, obviously, with those mules. WhiteRa has the gas advantage this time, though, getting the 3rd assimilator up and the 4th one not long after that. So these Colossi should just continue to keep coming one at a time. He can even get, like I said, that 4th warp gate. I'm surprised he hasn't done that yet, but for now he's just going to continue warping in on cooldown from those 3 existing ones. Actually, he does have a cooldown he hasn't used yet. What is he building? Extended thermal lances and another Colossus. Now he's getting another gateway. Where is that sucker? Where'd you put it? Back here, behind the visibility blocker. Okay, hit it even from me, the all-seeing observer. Very nice. So SjoW is actually starting to move up from the middle of the map, but WhiteRa actually chose pretty much the exact same timing to come down with his Colossi, so SjoW is going to see that and decide he is not ready to take that on yet. I'm curious about that starport. Did it flip onto the reactor? Yes, it did, and the factory actually flipped onto the tech lab, so he will be able to build tanks if he needs to. It looks like that first production cycle did crank out a couple of medevacs, and he is on the move with 4 Hellions tucked up inside of that one. Single Marine coming to the Xel'Naga Tower. Going to see this giant army from WhiteRa moving in. Should see everything here. Yes, he does. 2 pylons being dropped as well by this probe means that warp ins from those 4 gates are going to be very, very rapid, and a 5th gateway is coming now. So Stalker coming out from this pylon here, that medevac full of Hellions on the move. I'm just going to leave that in picture-in-picture and see if he actually does anything with it. But WhiteRa, being the aggressor this game, actually a change of pace for him, as SjoW has pretty much dominated the harassment tactics in both the first and second games. So lots and lots of force fields going down for WhiteRa. I love to see sentries in conjunction with Colossi. Force fields are just such a good way to protect them. He's not protecting very well from these Vikings, though, as that first Colossus does go down to nothing but Viking fire. These Stalkers really need to switch their focus and get these Vikings taken out so his Colossi can continue to do what they do best, which is shooting laser beams all over the place. And 2 health. No, this Colossus goes down to that final volley from the Viking. If he had just focused on those Vikings a little bit faster, that Colossus would have lived. Now all the workers here at the Natural of SjoW have been decimated. They're completely gone. The Orbital Command lifts up and tries to get out of town while all these supply depots start to go down. SjoW down to only 50 supply. WhiteRa at a healthy 68. Continuing to move on here. Let's look at the unit tab and see just what their army sizes look like right now. 3 Marines, a tank, 2 Vikings, medevac, and 2 Marauders against this decent-sized force from WhiteRa. And of course, those forward pylons are going to allow him to warp in as many units as he possibly can all at once. Lots and lots of Stalkers coming now to be able to defend his Colossus, his single remaining Colossus with 14 kills. Quite a Colossus there. Warping in whatever he can now, just going for the most economic route, getting some Zealots out. He just wants a unit advantage right now before he moves into the main of SjoW. It's great that he was able to actually take out that natural, and now all he has to do is kill off the remaining fighting forces of SjoW, and he should be able to breeze through the rest of these SCVs being pulled right now off the line from SjoW. Lots and lots of SCVs going down now to this Colossus duo here. The first Colossus does go down to Viking fire. The second one might live as WhiteRa is actually taking out the Vikings with his Stalkers. The Viking does go down. The Colossus lives with only 50 health, but these last few remaining Marines and Marauders are able to take it out. Looks like WhiteRa still has an advantage, though, as he's coming along with 4 more Zealots. These Vikings try to land and clear out the rest of the Stalkers, but the Zealots now arriving. If SjoW can just manage some nice micro, he might be able to kill the Zealots, but these 3 remaining Stalkers would make that very difficult to do. So SjoW goes ahead and GG's with nothing but a few Zealots and a few Stalkers in his base. Losing that natural basically meant that he was going to be so far behind WhiteRa. If we look at the income tab there at the end of the game, SjoW was only down to 3 Harvesters after he pulled all those SCVs and got absolutely destroyed by those Colossi. The Hellion drop in the back didn't seem to be too effective, and WhiteRa actually takes game 3, so he's going to force a game 4. He says to SjoW, I'm not going to let you take it that easily. Let's see in game 4 if WhiteRa can continue his comeback, or if SjoW will put the nail in the coffin.